Okay, today is day 23 of this making little videos for improving camera presence as a human with schizophrenia and uh, trying to improve camera presence as a life skill. Alright, so today I'm going to talk about the fear of sounding crazy and the notion that people will listen to what I have to say, or anybody can kind of experience this in a lot of different ways, but like fear of sounding crazy, or I can't believe that, or you, and I can't really, for me, I can't really be concerned about these things because I've been sounding crazy, or I've been chalked up as crazy for decades now, and and so I had expressed in another video that maybe my schizophrenia programming went back 15 years, and that's when symptoms first became recognizable uh in on their face or whatever. But like I believe it goes back to childhood, and it's been going on for maybe my whole life or whatever. So I think they're getting ready to pounce on you when you're a child or whatever, but they're learning about you and stuff like that. But anyways, okay. So I can't really be concerned with the fear of sounding crazy because I talk about a lot of things here, and people are going to either not believe or go with incredulity for whatever reason for themselves. So I can't really be concerned about that. All right, next topic. Uh, with these fires and everything, I'm afraid to express that I like anywhere or any section of the globe, even though I do particularly like things because they get attacked, it seems like. I had expressed that I liked Hawaii, or that I was very interested in going to Hawaii, and we were planning on going to a trip in uh, last Christmas, and then there was the massive fire in Hawaii. Lehani, I think I can't remember what it's called, but there was a massive fire in Hawaii that transpired after that, and uh, you know, uh, it makes me fearful of expressing that I like a place. I want to go and visit Japan, and they had that earthquake on New Year's after I had some alcohol, and I was thinking last night, like I was kind of like feeling uh, particularly responsible for Palisades because I was thinking like this is all my fault, and they this is what they like to do. They like to pin these things on you, and it was really sad and devastating, and like now Alta Dena, and uh, you know because I had previously expressed that I liked Palisades and I liked Pasadena, and my dad was an umpire in Palisades as a kid, and we would go out there and visit on the weekend. And I just thought it was a really nice place, and I wanted everything kind of to be like that. Uh, but now with what's going on with these fires or whatever, it's this gets into something that there's a multifacetation to warfare, and uh, I had talked I had talked about this when I originally got attacked on the highway for discussing what's going on in the Middle East. I thought there was a multifacetation hidden to the war, and that there was different propaganda pieces and targeted messaging going out to different people around the world, including me. And that it turns out what's NATO has all but let the cat out of the bag on this thing, and they've discussed cognitive war. And this is something, when I'm describing here is basically a documentation of cognitive war. And with a little bit talking about the Kenneth Fire. The Kenneth Fire started, and I talked a little bit yesterday about the fact that there was different fires, and they had particular names, and I was learning about how they name the fires, and apparently it's named when the first person arrives to a fire scene, the first responder, and then they choose a landmark around the area. And so that's how the fires get named. So that was a little curious to me. And the Kenneth Fire started, and I said Hearst is Hearst, me as Patty Hearst. Does I asked the question, does divide, are they saying this is a way to divide people, or we have to bridge the divide? Or I don't, what is the messaging with the fire? Or they're saying uh, there is a divide, or, I'm not sure exactly, but there's messaging maybe in the fire names themselves. Eaten for me eating, and, sun swept to say, that could be a particular thing I don't really want to talk about because I don't want to target other people with my targeting myself. So then there was the Royal Fire, and but that one was put out real quick, so maybe they were saying Royal's not involved, or and then you had that King Frederick thing with Trump or whatever. And anyways, okay, the Kenneth Fire. Now I think this could be a message that the fires, it was potentially started by arsonists. They arrested the guy. He was wearing a black shirt, and I've been stalked and harassed by people wearing black shirts for a number of years now. And so I had actually seen him on the news wearing the black shirt. And this Kenneth Fire, like Ken, they like to call me Ken because I like a particular woman who's blonde, or sometimes they're blonde or whatever. And uh, then there is, they like to call me Ken from Barbie or whatever. That it's kind of funny to them or something. But this could all be a false flag. Like I say, they could be wearing the black shirt to frame people wearing black shirts, or they could be using the Ken terminology to frame people who use the terminology in my program. And Ken also was the name of a guy who, at one of my jobs, another guy named Paul said that Ken, we used to, in builds outs, there would be deadlines to push for build outs, and Ken would get excited by everybody coming together and the deadline, and just the people getting excited by like not an emergency, but like in this case they're saying Ken would be excited by an emergency, because emergency is like everybody coming together, everybody operating on like an emergency level, and it just the adrenaline rush of the city coming together and doing things like that is maybe the motivation for the fire, or like that the Kenneth Fire, like maybe. So I'm not saying that's what's going on. I don't know. They could be trying to create a false flag impression on me so that I come here and talk about it. But that's what Ken is about. So Ken is about like somebody making the fire to create unity or just like create an emergency situation for usage and camaraderie or something, and like I say, that could be a false flag because it could be a totally different motivation. They could be people that are, if and okay, I'm gonna get a little bit into uh pyros. And we have known that there have been pyros in California for some time, and some of these pyros even work for the fire department sometimes. And there's a real terminology that is used within fire departments and stuff, and that's firefighters started fires. And there's been like 100 of those in the U.S. over the years. And a lot of times they say these firefighters are motivated by the hero syndrome or something like that and stuff. And my question is could it be organized? Like could once you realize there are pyros and not all of them are in the fire department, obviously, like most of them aren't. But once you realize there are pyros lighting fires and stuff, you have to ask the question: is it motivated? Is it organizationally motivated? And then what is the motive? Why are they starting these fires? And it's weird that we don't ask those questions. And I find it weird that like isn't it weird no one's asking that question? Like we know that we've had this persistent problem with pyros over the years in California, and we should have some sort of crazy surveillance considering what happened to Paradise and other towns. This is not the first town that this has happened to. And there's been towns wiped out before, and we should have surveillance. I guess this is reckoning to me like there should be a mass surveillance in California by satellite of people, and it's going on with me already. So it's like I know they're doing it, so like let's put it out in the open that we need to surveil, and we need to know where people are and what they're doing, particularly if they go into. So we could go back to a tape and say like this person was in this area at the time of the fire started, and this is what they were doing, and you could look at a video from a satellite or something. So maybe we have blanket coverage of the earth or something. And when you have a situation where people are burning people out of their homes, I think it's time to do some sort of surveillance. And then you would need a surveillance system that would also take into account lasers. So you would need to take into account people starting fires, and then you would need to take into account lasers. So I don't know how you would. Someone needs to create a technology where you learn like how does a laser, what kind of energy signature does a laser have or something, and we can determine this was started by a laser and do some sort of reverse surveillance or something. I don't know how to do that. I'm not a scientist, but in any event, the tanker plane got hit by a drone, which is kind of suspicious, and it is grounded today. The water tanker, and it makes you wonder why we only have one tanker in California and why we have to borrow planes from Canada and stuff. Like, if the military is really in our defense as a nation, and you have all these wildfires in the West Coast and everything, wouldn't you think the military would be involved in supplying planes for water drops for the? And isn't it kind of suspicious that the military doesn't have like politician wise, like they're not up on this and they don't have the military supply planes to water drop in the event of fires, particularly when there's pyros? That's kind of weird. And I'm going to stop here because I'm at 15 minutes. So I'll talk about this later. Bye.